Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about variables and Python and data types. So variables are space in memory where I can store things. So for example, if I want to print the salary of a person that works for 15 hours a week, 40 hours a week, and then I want to print the salary of a person that works for 15 hours a week, 35 hours a week, and then I want to print the salary of a person that works for $15 a week for only 38 hours a week. I can print that. I can save this file and print it, and here I see the salaries of the three people. Now, if I want to change any of these salaries, right? If I want to change this to 15.5 hours a week, I have to go here and change 15.5, 15.5, and then I can run it and go, and I see the new salaries. But oh, I forgot to change this one. Okay, I'll change it again, right? Now, here I have only 3 lines, but when your programs get very big, making changes like this, it is very possible to forget stuff. I intentionally forgotten this one, but it is very possible to make this kind of mistakes or a typo, and then instead of 16, you put 15.6 for whatever mistake, because you're changing so much data. So it is very convenient, instead of having 15.5, say associate that to a tag. So let's associate that to a tag. So my tag is going to be hours_rate. That is the name of a tag, and that's going to be 15.5. And then what happens is I will just change this to hours rate, and then here hours rate, right? And what happens here is that, again, I'm going to get the exact same numbers, and it seems like it's more code, but when I have to change it or I have to modify it, let's say now it's 15.7, I just changed the tag, and then anywhere where this tag is, it's going to be changed to 15.7. I only need to change it in one place, and it will be changed for all of the other for every computation where this is where this tag is present. So here it is. Now, variables are not just a tag. What happens is, in the background, is the computer has this information. This is a number that uses some space in memory, right? Now, what happens is the computer puts it in a secret location in memory that only the computer knows, okay? Now, how do I access that location in memory? Well, the computer says assign a tag to that location. So whenever I see hours rate, for example, I know to go to a specific location where I have this value stored, okay? So that is basically variables in Python. Now, there are many data types, okay? One data type is this one, numeric values, right? They can be integers or floating point variables, and there's a couple of others, but for now, integers or float. So floating point means decimals, integers means no decimals, right? They can be positive or negative, but they can be numbers. This is numeric information. You can store that in a variable. Another thing that you can store in a variable, okay, is strings. Strings is traditionally, it's computer science talk for text. So I can store text, and I can say, for example, this is one name, okay, name, or I can say, I don't know, employee 1. The name of employee 1 is going to be John. Now, if I just type John like this, okay, the computer is going to think that John is also a tag that contains a value. It's also a variable. So in order to tell the computer that John is a string, I need to put it in quotes. So I want the text John, not the variable John, right? So employee 1 is John. That's text, right? Another text could be my poem, okay? I don't know. The cat in the hat knows a lot about that. For example, that is also text. A whole book can fit into a variable, right? It's important to notice that variables, or these tags, right? Variables do not have spaces in them, okay? Now, so here's text. So you can store text, aka strings. We're going to call it strings from now on. Another thing that you can store is Boolean variables. So things that are that have a value, a truth value. They're either true or false. So for example, I can say, for example, my bool, and that can store the value true. I can say your bool, and that can be value false. I can also store the result of an expression that returns true or false. So for example, the variable is it is greater. For example, that can be, this is just a tag, remember? Is greater, I can see 3 greater than 4. So if 3 is greater than 4, which it is, this will have the value of true, okay? If I put 3 greater than 3 greater than 4 is going to have the value of false, because 3 is not greater than 4. If I put 3 greater than 2, then is greater is going to have the value true, okay? Now, so these are Boolean variables, Boolean, true or false. There's no other value here. I put this, which seems like it's a different value, but what happens really is that 3 greater than 2, the computer will resolve that first, and then the result of that is going to be put in this memory space. So what we can do now is we can print all these variables. So we can print hourly rate, just to see that it's a number. We can print employee 1. We can print my poem, right? And we can print my bool. And we can also print in a little bit more sophisticated way. We can print more than one thing at a time. We can print your bool, comma, is greater. Those two. So if you put a comma, you can print a lot of stuff. So separate by comma, of course. Now let's run it. And we see 15.7 was my number. John and the cat in the hat knows a lot about that were my strings. This one was my Boolean, and this is your Boolean, and the is greater variable. So now we have 3 very distinct data types: numeric, string, and Boolean. There's one more data type that I'm going to talk at length about, which is the lists, and that's going to be in another video, but for now I'm just going to introduce it. A list is a collection of things, okay? So for example, I'm going to say employees, okay? And the employees is going to be a list or a collection of, say for example, strings. John, Mike, Jane, and Kim. Those are my employees. They can also be a list of something else. For example, salaries. And that can be 100, 200, 55, 600, and I don't know, 700, whatever that salary is. They don't have to have 5 elements or 4 elements. They can be as long as you want. It's just a collection of things. And you can also print them. So let's print employees, and then let's print salaries. And if we run this program, we print the employees and the salaries. We're going to see what's the use of these lists later in a different video. Now, you can have lists of any kind of data you want, numeric, string, or Boolean, and you can actually mix them. So you can say, for example, another variable that it's company data, for example, and that can be John 15 true, Mary 45.6 false, for example. Here I'm mixing up data, and I can print that data here, print co data, and I can run it. Whoops. I need to close the parentheses and salaries. There you go. All right, so here it is, right? Here's my list with all kinds of objects here, okay? Lists can have more than just these types. Lists can have other lists inside, okay? So I can have LOL, that's my list of lists, not laughing out loud. And it can be a string, a number, a Boolean, and then it can have another list with, I don't know, 3 numbers, but it can be a list with anything. And then close. The key thing to keep track of is keep track of these square braces. Whenever you put a list, you have to open square braces, okay? And if we can print that, we can also print LOL, and you will see that it's printed right here, okay? Now we'll see what the uses of a list are later, but for now, suffice to say that these data types are very common in Python. There are more data types. There are other kinds of lists and other kinds of expressing collections, but until we understand how to use these collections, those data types are not so relevant or so interesting yet. So these are the basic data types of a Python program.